side. Just going to flatten this cover very carefully. And here is the former Queen Elizabeth II and husband Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. So this book was published in 2015. The contents are introduction, the Middle Ages, creation of the castle, Charles II, Baroque reconstruction, George III, return to Windsor, George IV, romantic revival, Queen Victoria, Windsor Castle in modern times, further reading and an index. Let's have a read of the introduction. Now the picture on the left hand side is the lower ward with the procession of the Knights of the Garter in their annual service in St George's Chapel, which is the place where the Queen is now buried. The Garter ceremonies including the investment of new knights, a feast and choral service in St George's Chapel used to be held on St George's Day in April, but now takes place in June. Windsor Castle is one of the most important secular historic buildings in Britain. It is the largest inhabited castle in the world and the longest occupied royal palace in Europe. It is comparable with the Vatican, the Escorial or Versailles in its fame and national associations. It is an architectural epitome of the history of the English nation, and its skyline of battlements, turrets, and the great round tower is instantly recognisable throughout the world. Windsor Castle is more like a fortified town than a house. It covers over 13 acres. It includes a large collegiate church, houses 4 scores of people, from the constable and governor of the castle and the military knights of Windsor and their families, to the dean, canons and choristers of St George's Chapel, and a guard which This is a drawing of an overhead view of Windsor Castle. Looks like an old view. And there is like a key here with numbers which tells you where the various places are. So let's see if we can find some of the numbers. If we start, let's see, so that's number 12, just here, and that one is the Winchester Tower. This one is number 4, that is Governor of the Arms, Knight's Tower, I think. Governor of the Arms. No, actually, the Knight's Tower must be number 5. This is a bit like a word search for me, trying to find the numbers. Okay, number 3 is St. Francis Crane's Buildings. Number 2 is the Castle Gate. Now, is that a number or a person? I think that's, let's see, 21. Burke Gate, I think that says. Burke Gate. 10 is the Earl Marshal's Tower. Number 13, just poking out there, is the Keep. This looks like the old original modern Bailey location of the Norman Tower, perhaps, but I'm sure we'll find out about that inside. That's the number there, that is 20. That is the let me see, Terrace Gate. I just apologise in advance, my sight isn't very good, so a bit difficult for me to see some of these numbers and the writing. Interesting. Is that a number 1? No. Oh, there's a number 28. The tower. Or is that number 2? I don't know. Anyway, let's carry on. But that's a fabulous image. It really is. You can see the extent of the building. I imagine that this is St. George's Chapel. Oh wait, there is a number there. Yeah, number 5. So it's right. St. George's Chapel. or stone, the entrance to which was protected by an outer fenced courtyard or bailey, hence the description of this type of layout as a motte and bailey castle. Windsor is the most notable example of a particularly distinctive version of this basic plan, developed for use on a ridge site. It comprises a central motte with a large bailey to either side of it, known as Windsor, as the lower and upper wards. Rather than just on one side, as was more usual, it is not a unique plan, however. Arundel Castle in Sussex, Rockingham Castle in Northamptonshire, and Alnwick Castle in Northumberland all originally had similar plans, and there are other examples in William's native Normandy, such as the chateau of Grimboskye near Caen. The Norman and Angevin kings were constantly on the move, riding from manor to manor and castle to castle in Normandy, Anjou and England, in order to satisfy the needs of justice and administration, as well as for hunting and recreation. During the Middle Ages, the royal household was the government of the country. And much of it travelled with the king. Only a few institutions, such as the treasury, staying in one place. This restless existence made the king's presence felt all over his territories and was an important aspect of royal policy. Over the years, a certain pattern developed in these regal progresses. Thus, Christmas and the great feasts of the year came to be spent in particular places. William the Conqueror, when he was in England, wore his crown 3 times a year: in Winchester at Easter, in Westminster at Whitsuntide, and in Gloucester at Christmas. On these great formal or state occasions he entertained all the great men of the realm: earls, thanes and knights, archbishops, bishops and abbots. The annual state opening of Parliament at Westminster is a survival of this ancient custom into modern times. In addition to these principal palaces with their great halls, which formed the setting for the ceremonial occasions, when the king appeared in state, surrounded by his barons, the king possessed a large number of more private castles and hunting lodges, where he spent some of his time and which offered him sport in surrounding forests as relaxation from the business of government. The Normans introduced deer hunting into England, initially as a royal sport. Windsor began its present role as a royal residence in the guise of a hunting lodge. At first built, the castle had been entirely defensive, constructed of earth and timber, but easy access from London and the proximity of the castle to the old royal hunting forest of the Saxon kings, immediately to the south of which part was later enclosed as Windsor Great Park, soon recommended it as a royal residence. Henry I is known to have had domestic quarters in the castle as early as 1110, and his son Henry II converted the castle into a palace. He built 2 separate sets of royal apartments within the fortified enclosure, a public or official state residence in the lower ward, with a great hall where he could entertain his court and the barons on state occasions, and a smaller private residence on the north side of the upper ward for his own exclusive occupation. Thus, he ingeniously combined both types of royal Bedfordshire and improved the accommodation within the fortifications of many. Of the royal castles in the Midlands and in the south of England, the stone for the new residential buildings constructed at Windsor in 1165 to 71 was brought from Bedfordshire. Henry II also began to replace the old timber outer walls of the upper ward with stone using a hard heath stone found 10 miles south of Windsor at Bagshot. The basic curtain wall round the upper ward, much modified by later alterations and improvements, dates from Henry II's time. So does the old part of the stone keep, known as the Round Tower, on top of William the Conqueror's motte. The reconstruction of the curtain wall round the lower ward was completed over the next 60 years. The well-preserved section visible from the High Street with its 3 half-round towers being built by Henry III, his predecessor King John. King John's work on the fortifications was interrupted when in 1215 he was besieged by the barons, who forced him to sign Magna Carta at Runnymede, the flat field inside the Thames near Windsor, where they were based. Now this picture is the lower ward, showing the curtain wall and curfew tower. Henry III, who came of age in 1227 and married Eleanor of Provence in 1236, was the greatest builder among the English medieval kings. Architecture was his chief passion, and Westminster Abbey is his most complete surviving monument. He took a keen personal interest in all his projects. For instance, he sent detailed architectural instructions to the builders in England when he was in France. Wherever he was, his clerks were called to take down his instructions, which read more like an architectural specification than ordinary government documents. Henry III carried out extensive works at Windsor, spending more money there than at any of his other major houses. In his time it became one of the 3 principal royal palaces alongside Westminster and Winchester. He completely rebuilt Henry II's buildings in the lower ward and added there a large new chapel, all forming a coherently planned layout round a courtyard with a cloister. Parts of Henry III's buildings survive embedded in later structures in the lower ward. He also further improved the royal the Sainte-Chapelle in Paris, built by Henry III's cousin, Louis IX. Henry III visited Paris for the first time only in 1254, and it was the Sainte-Chapelle which he most wanted to see while he was there. A contemporary poem imaginatively quotes him as declaring that, if he could, he would like to bring it home with him in a cart. As the Windsor Chapel was already completed by then, the Sainte-Chapelle can have had no first-hand influence on its design, though the King's Paris visit did have significant impact on the design of Westminster Abbey. Gosh, look at that door. That's amazing. It almost looks like something from Lord of the Rings. So this is the door at the east end of St. George's Chapel. It's stone surround, and the door itself looks like it's made of wood. It's red with gold swirly patterned ironwork. So it says, this survives from Henry III's original chapel. The ironwork is signed by the smith Gilbertus and gives an idea of the high artistic quality of Henry III's work at Windsor. Amazing. Even less is known about the Queen's Chapel at Windsor than the King's, except that it was two-storied, with the Queen's pew situated in the upper gallery or tribune, entered directly from their apartments, while her household sat down below in the body of the building. Henry and his Queen were both very pious. The King went to Mass 3 times a day, which even Louis IX thought excessive. The chapels and the new royal rooms at Windsor were elaborately decorated, as were the interiors of all Henry III's houses, with stained glass in the windows, carved wood ceilings, richly tiled floors, like that which can still be seen in the chapter house of Westminster Abbey, and wall paintings. These murals were of biblical and other religious themes, historical subjects, or even great contemporary events, such as the Crusades in the Holy Land. The Queen's Chamber, for instance, had its walls painted with the tree of Jesse, and the ceiling was painted green with gold stars. The vivid colouring which distinguished Henry III's architecture is recalled in the restored scarlet gesso and gilded ironwork of his chapel doors. The King himself specified the subjects for the painters to execute. The names of some of the artists who worked for him are recorded in the account rolls, including Master William of Westminster, a Benedictine monk, Master Walter of Durham, a layman, and the latter's son Thomas. Their workmanship was of the highest technical excellence, and was one of the high watermarks of English medieval art. Only small fragments survive, but some idea of their original impact can be gathered from the rolls of accounts and records. Henry III's substantial programme at Windsor was totally eclipsed 100 years later by Edward III in the 1350s, 1360s and 1370s. Edward III's work at Windsor was not only the most important palace building project of the later Middle Ages, but the most ambitious single architectural scheme in the whole history of the English royal residences. His transformation of the castle into a vast Gothic palace, redolent of the medieval ideas of Christian chivalry, palace was constructed round 3 courts on the north side of the quadrangle. The alterations to the lower ward were designed to provide accommodation for the priestly college of St. George, founded on the 6th of August, 1348, as the religious complement of the Order of the Garter. It comprised a dean, 12 canons, and 13 vicars choral. In addition, there were to be 26 poor knights who were to attend Mass daily as a substitute for the companions of the order who were too busy elsewhere. Henry III's handsome chapel was made over to the order and remained St. George's Chapel. Henry's royal lodgings in the lower ward were transformed into accommodation for the clergy, and a new cloister was built with traceried perpendicular windows and a massive beamed ceiling, as well as a treasury and chapter house. A mechanical weight-driven clock, the earliest recorded in England, was set up in the round tower at the same time. These various works, which cost £6,500, were completed by 1358, and to mark the occasion, the feast of St. George was celebrated by the king and court with great splendour at the castle that year. Now this picture down here is the Norman Gateway, and then it says that this is not in fact Norman, but was built by Edward III in 1357 as the principal entrance to his new palace in the upper ward. The tower on the left was restored by Geoffrey Wyatt Phil. The reconstruction of the upper ward, begun in 1357, was on a larger scale than the work in the lower ward. The new royal lodgings were constructed of stone, initially under the direction of William of Wickham, surveyor of the King's Works, and later Bishop of Winchester. An inner gatehouse, flanked by 2 cylindrical towers, was built to give access to the upper ward from the lower in 1359. It still survives, albeit restored, but is now misleadingly called the Norman Gateway. Only some of the masonry of the present state. Apartments and the handsome vaulted undercroft survive of Edward III's royal lodgings, but the original accounts, together with the engravings of Windsor by Wenceslas Holler in Elias Ashmole's 17th century history of the most noble order of the Garter, and recent archaeological discoveries, give some impression. So I think this is one of the pictures. This is entrance to the servants' hall in the vaulted undercroft, which still survives apparently. The major new apartments were on the first floor and consisted of separate sets of rooms for the king and the queen, in accordance with the traditional arrangement of the English royal residence. vistas